Hello, my name is Mitchell Tosi, and today I'll be presenting my Tableau 2 Info Systems project. So basically what we were given was a massive amount of data in Excel, and we had to use this data in Tableau and interpret it and reach conclusions or recommendations we'd make to a company about um, our findings using the data. So the Excel data included regions of sales. It includes sales, salespersons, price, and a whole bunch of other variables. And the amount of data was just massive. So using Tableau could kind of visualize this data so we could display it in an easier to process format. So if I go back to my screen, here's my project, and I'm going to start off with the map of the price of sums. So as you can see here, I created a map, and in my rows, I made latitude, and my columns has longitude. I created some filters, so basically I made the different regions have filters. So states that are darker green have higher sales rates, or higher prices, sums of prices, while the lighter states tend to have the lower sums of prices. So, um, like I annotated right here. So as you can see, Ohio, District of Columbia, Virginia, Pennsylvania, these states seem to be have the highest sums of prices, with Pennsylvania at 1,050,000, Ohio, for example, at 1,088,000. But then if you look at the lighter states, such as Texas, the price was 867,000. So clear difference, and this just kind of helps you get a general idea of where the sales, or yeah, the sums of prices are the highest and where they're the lowest. On to the next slide, we can see I also created a map, but I zoomed in on the areas with the darkest green, or like I said earlier, they have the highest prices per area. So I apologize for this. If I zoom out a little bit, you can see that the darker shades indicate a higher price, and the Mid-Atlantic and the Midwest appear to have the highest prices as well. So using this, I made two different slides just to make it a little bit easier to see, but I filtered the region in this one and also made it color coded. But this is a clump of dark states with high prices. So this could indicate that these states have good sales strategies and they're doing something right, and maybe the other states could take note of this. Next, we're going to move on to the price per salesperson. So in this, I made for the column section region and salesperson go in, and for the rows, I did the sum of price again. So again, I color coded it, this time using darker colors to indicate which salespeople have the highest prices, and the lighter blues indicate that there's lower prices. So here we can really see who is performing well and who is not by the region. So if I were to point out a few, Paul in the Northwest only has 1,000K in his price, but Peter has almost triple that, well over actually in the Northwest. So this can really show and point out who perhaps is doing an underwhelming performance rather than excelling at their position. Okay, this one's an interesting one that I did. Most of my graphs have to do with maps or bar graphs, but this one was a different format. So what I did here, I made the columns by the week and the date of sales, and the rows region and sum of price. So basically, I did the last 6 months because it was almost overwhelming having 52 weeks all lined up at the bottom. You can't really tell what you're looking at. So I did it in the last 6 months just to spot any trends during this time period. So one thing I noticed in week 33, there seems to be a slight dip in the sales during this time period. Also, at the end of the year, it's a much more dramatic dip in the sales. So for the end of the year, I'm assuming that it's holidays and the sales are just going to drop for obvious reasons. It's seasonal. But for here, there's not really an explanation for this in around week 33. So this is consistent among all the regions. So perhaps one thing the company can do is make this fluctuation not present. Hopefully we can find strategies to make it so the sales just remain consistently high um, throughout all parts of the year, not have fluctuations like this. Certain regions have the dip more than others. For example, the Midwest has it a little bit more. This trend is common in the states that have a higher sales price. Next, this is a very simple one, price per salesperson, but it's filtered, as you can see. So the region right here, oops. So this is the price per salesperson filtered, and this is just one region, as you can see. So I did the Mid-Atlantic and the Midwest, so the two highest priced states. And so everybody seems to be doing an excellent job, except for Daryl, as you can see right here. So it's a very underwhelming performance by Daryl, and that is something to take note of, because everybody else is managing to get in the 2 millions and well into the 3 millions. But Daryl is at around 900,000. So whatever we could do to figure out what variables are making that lower is important to identify. Now these, I decided to get two regions which were pretty dramatically different. Mid-Atlantic being the highest average sales, and the West having the lowest average sales. Just to compare the two, just so you can get an idea of which regions are doing better than others. By comparing the best and the worst, we can clearly see the difference. Now, it's not too big of a difference, but clearly the Mid-Atlantic region is doing something better than the West in order to get a higher sum of price. Next, I'm going to move on to this interactive graph I created. So again, the darker shades of green indicate a higher price, while the lighter colors indicate a lower price. And on the bottom, we have the regions. Now, the way this is interactive is anytime I select a region, it can show the salespersons of that region, the salespeople of that region, and the states which are included in that region. And you can really see which areas are getting the higher prices. So if I were to select one that, say a smaller region like the Northwest, with like lower amounts of salespeople, you can see that there's not as much going on in this area. However, you select the South, there's much more states, much more salespeople, and there's a lot of data that can be interpreted from this point. So on to my summary. I've created a story which, oops, I need to go back. I apologize. Okay, here we are. So this is a map of the price sums, and I've shown this a couple times, but it really just gives a general idea of which areas have the higher prices, which have the lower prices. Next, I have the map of price sums filtered. So the Mid-Atlantic, Midwest appear to have the highest prices, as we've discussed with many charts and data visualizations. Now this one, the chart displays the price divided by regions and salesperson. This way we're able to tell which individuals have been able to achieve the highest price. The highest prices range from around 300K to 3,750K. Using this data, we're able to identify which salespeople are doing exceptionally well and which are underperforming. The line graphs here, as we talked about earlier, these line graphs show the last 6 months in price categorized by region. And as we discussed earlier, there's that dip in all the sales during that time period for whatever reason. Next is the Mid-Atlantic versus the Midwest. These are the two notable regions, one being good, one being not as successful. And the Mid-Atlantic region has the highest price, while the West is the lowest price region. And next, we have this interactive graph where we can identify which regions are which, and we can see the salespeople in each region. And that concludes my presentation. Oh, actually, so I've using all this data, there's a lot to conclude from it. Um, Basically, the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic seem to have the darkest shades, so therefore they have the highest sales. And certain salespeople are underperforming. To point out a few, Paul of the Northwest has very low sales compared to the rest, and Ankit of the South has very low sales. Um, Also, Daryl and Mike of the Midwest seem to have underwhelming performances. And however, the Mid Atlantic seems to have really good sales strategies because um, they have the highest price. So perhaps the other regions can learn something from this and follow their strategies, techniques, and implement that into their sales system just so they can catch up and everyone can perform at this successful rate. Also, something causes the sales to dip around week 33 to 34 and at the end of the year. So perhaps if we could fix these downfalls, the total amount of sales can increase. I think using these tips could really benefit this company and um, it's important. This Tableau visualization can be very useful to the owner of this company just to see where the downfalls are, where certain areas of the company is lagging behind, and what they can do to improve that. This concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.